Hi friend, welcome to the Quiet Connections podcast. Do you feel anxious and not good enough in social situations? Feel like you're weird, broken or don't fit in? You are not alone. Join Hayley and Stacey on a journey to quiet confidence, picking up key insights to help you feel more calm and confident, so you can finally speak up, join in and feel like you belong too.
Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Quiet Connections podcast. I'm Hayley and today I'm joined by Stacey.
Hi Hayley.
Hello Stacey. And this is a really exciting episode today because this is the final episode of series 1 of the podcast. We will be back in the summer, don't worry.
It's mad, isn't it? We've done a whole season already.
I know. And to think it was supposed to be just a really short season and then lockdown happened and we were like, let's just keep going.
I think we were just enjoying it and realised there was so much more that we could bring interview-wise and people that we wanted to share with you all. So yeah, we just continued and it's been really exciting. I think really challenging actually also for both me and you, Hayley. So yeah, it's definitely been a comfort zone stretch for us.
Certainly has.
Yeah. Yeah, we come to a close of this season, but we have already started recording more interviews to bring to you for season 2, which I think you already mentioned, Hayley, will be coming out in the summer.
And this is going to be a really exciting episode for you to listen to because as well as us taking our comfort zone stretches doing this podcast, we have now invited some of our quiet community members to come and join us. And this is a real stretch for them. So I just want to take a moment to honour them for coming on and sharing a little bit of their story and talking about what's really made a difference in their journey from socially anxious to quietly confident.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I think if we had asked any of them previously, like 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, if they would like to come on and share their experiences and their journeys, I think they all would have said no.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, yeah, a lot of gratitude to each and every one of them for coming on and sharing their stories with us and with you. And I think you'll be really inspired at the progress and the change that you have witnessed within each of them and the steps that they've taken.
Very much so.
Yeah, and like we were like a part of that, and I think still just when you hear it back, then it's just it really is amazing to see how much you can grow as a person.
Yeah, for sure. And what we've asked these guests to do today is to come on and just share a little about their story, where they were and where they are now, because this is going to help you to realize that you're really not alone. And, you know, again, it's going to help to inspire and motivate you. And then we've asked them to share, you know, 1 or 2 things that have really made a difference in their journey. And they have found this so hard because, you know, we all know it's not 1 or 2 things, it's a combination of things. But we've asked them to really pick out something that they feel has been significant for them. And then they are sharing a message with you, something that they would like you to know if you are maybe right at the start of your journey, where they were when they first got involved with Quiet Connections. So let's dive right in with our first guest. This is Amanda's story.
I was struggling with depression. I felt quite isolated. I had no motivation. I didn't want to go out the house. Just really struggled to engage with people and just kind of felt safe to just stay inside the house. It was easier just not to do anything. It's hard to remember that was actually me then. Yeah, I didn't feel that what I had to say was worth knowing. You know, I didn't have the ability to actually stand up and say what I really wanted to say. It was like stuck inside of me. And I guess my self-worth was just really low. You know, I just had no belief in myself as a person, really. So yeah, it was just easier and safer just to stay at home on my own and not communicate, because that way I couldn't kind of get hurt or let down or, you know, whatever was going on in my head on that day. One of the things that I really liked about Quiet Connections was actually because there was some anonymity with speaking to you and not actually having to sit in like like a counselling sort of room or anything, and that really helped me to kind of open up and just be more real, because I thought, oh, you're not going to see me or meet me, and that way I felt less judged. Not that you would have judged me, but I think that really helped me to be able to open up more. Just building up a relationship and being able to talk openly and honestly, and not to scare anyone away, you know, but actually it was quite normal what I was going through. I just felt really held, and just very gently, it kind of just helped me to have some more belief in myself, and just hearing my own voice as well. And, you know, some of the stuff was mirrored back to me. It didn't feel quite so bad, because it wasn't just all snowballing in my head and just getting bigger and bigger and feeding into all the negativity. It was releasing by being able to talk about it, and by given different strategies to cope with some of the things that I was feeling. And I just felt really honoured as a person, I suppose, by somebody just listening and caring and taking that time out. It helps me to feel better about myself. Oh, well, actually, you know, not everyone's going to run away from me when I step outside the door as well, you know. It restored some of that self-belief, I guess, and, you know, eventually had a knock-on effect that I did, you know, I started to feel motivated. I started to have some more self-worth, and just felt the old me coming back, really, which was really good. It's crazy that we're in lockdown, but I have to actually check my diary now, because I've just got so much on that things are happening. It's like, really? This is me from a year ago? It's a combination of lots of things. I think the Brené Brown books are a huge help, which you recommended. You know, just some of her stuff is just amazing. Just having that sense of belonging, I think, and by being heard, I guess, you know, just being heard, not anyone trying to fix it, but just being held in that space and just somebody actually hearing me, and that was okay. I think that was the catalyst for everything else that kind of came after that, really. So it takes a while to get in there, but I guess that was the beauty of QC. You know, there was never felt rushed in anything. You know, it was just allowing me to just unfold naturally with no pressure, and just allowing me to be, which was a beautiful part of the process, really, looking back on it.
And what would your advice for somebody else be? Just
to embrace the process, actually, and just know that things will get better, which at that time when you're in that space, you just really don't think that they're going to, you know, but believing that actually, you know, you're worth it, you are worth it. And on the other side of whatever you're feeling and going through is that person just waiting to come out and blossom, you know. And I think it's a bit like the seasons, in it. We all go through all the different seasons. It's something that I say to some of my clients now, and a bit like winter, when everything's all a bit dying off and nothing's happening, but the roots are still there. You know, we're still here, we're still present, our roots are there, and it's just not trying to force anything. And I say, like, well, it's a bit like a plant, you know, it's got all these branches coming off of it, but the plant doesn't say to itself, like, oh, I've got to try and force this and make it happen. You know, the buds that come out, it's just like God, you know, the universe, whatever belief is, it will just happen by believing. And, you know, like the flower just blossoms, having that faith and hanging on and just digging deep and just trusting the process, I think, which at the time I didn't think it would, but it has, clearly. I'm blossoming.
I love that. You are blossoming, Amanda.
That was so beautiful. There's so many great metaphors in there. I actually really loved what she said there about you know, like that reference to winter, and how on the outside it may appear like the plants are dying off, but the roots are still always there, you know. And it's the same with us. No matter what is appearing on the surface, the root of who we truly are is still always there. It's still in there. And sometimes we just need that process of bringing ourselves back to ourselves and blossoming. And yeah, I loved what she said about the unfolding.
Yeah, I felt a real theme of belonging throughout Amanda's conversation there. And she also mentioned Brené Brown. So I'm going to read a little bit of a definition of belonging from Brené Brown, because I have her book, Braving the Wilderness, right in front of me.
Love that book.
So Brené says that true belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and in standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And I'm just going to read that bit again.
Mm-hmm.
True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you really, truly are. And I think that's the mistake that we make so often, is that we think that we need to change ourselves and try and fit in and conform. And then we feel this kind of conflict within us because we're not showing up as our true selves. We're just shape-shifting, trying to fit in. And it's no wonder that we feel like we don't have a place in the world.
Yeah, it's so easy to feel disconnected from ourselves and from others when we're trying to mold ourselves into being someone that we're not. And in the process of that, we're placing expectations on ourselves or trying to live up to the expectations that we believe everybody else holds for us. And they may not be in alignment with actually what we want or what feels right for us or what feels good for us. And yeah, continuing to try and live life in that way is, emotionally painful. It's hard for us. And I think, we all want to feel like we belong, and the truth is that we do all belong. It's just recognizing that and finding that within ourselves, or rediscovering that within ourselves, that our place of belonging has always existed in us first and foremost, and then with those who connect with who we truly are and not what we're trying to think that we need to be.
Yeah, so true. Just to finish, Amanda's message there to embrace the process and just believe that change can happen. I think that's so powerful. The process is a struggle. The process is challenging and it sucks. And, as Brené Brown says, embrace the suck. We have to go through that pain and discomfort to grow. That is how growth happens.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that really stands out for me, just in terms of like looking at this word struggle, is that so often we associate struggle with suffering, when struggle and suffering are actually two very different things. And we need struggle to grow, but we don't need the suffering aspect. And actually the suffering aspect is what happens when we try to resist that struggle or try to resist that growth. And so I think finding some kind of distinction or separation between the two, that struggle is part of the adventure and challenge of life, that it doesn't need to, or it's not the same as keeping ourselves in a place of suffering.
I love that. Okay, who are we listening to next?
So next up we have the lovely Rose. Let's just mention that Rose is the one who has recorded the intro for this podcast throughout the whole thing.
Yay,
so
thank you, Rose.
Recognize her voice.
When I first met Hayley from Quiet Connections, I was very lonely in myself. I had limited confidence and no self-esteem or self-belief. I didn't feel worthy of others' time, effort, help, or love. With Hayley's help and Quiet Connections, I began to feel differently about myself. I discovered I could do the things I was scared of and that I was likable. It made me feel more rounded as a person. I joined the groups and did different group activities and had fun while being my true self, happy dance and all. I think the biggest thing I've learned from Hayley and also Stacey is to trust, both myself and others. I have belief in myself as a good person now. I can act with grace and love to myself as well as those around me. This has enabled me to develop friendships with new people. I'd say be your own authentic self, quiet or otherwise. We're all worthy of love, time, and attention.
Yay, we so are.
So true. So true. I love what she said there about happy dance and all. I think we all have a happy dance inside of us somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think what really stood out to me there was that sense of, well, I think two things actually. There was that trust within yourself and with yourself, but also extending that to others, and also the growing of compassion for yourself and for others as well. Yeah, I think those are two incredibly vital things that we need. And you know, I know from my experience and from those who I've spoken with, and I know with you, Hayley, as well, that quite often when we feel socially anxious, there is, I want to say lack, although I don't really like that word, but there is that sense of lack of trust within ourselves that can, you know, be that root for all the self-doubting and that feeling of, I don't trust my own decisions, or that I'm making the right choices, and therefore we tend to place a lot of external value and validation on what everybody else is saying around us, rather than listening to our own intuition and instinct and our own voice inside of ourselves.
Absolutely. And this is exactly what happens. We just become disconnected from our own selves, as well as from the world around us, really. And it's so important to start rebuilding that connection with ourselves. And what Rose is talking about is showing up as who she really truly is, being that person in the world, stopping hiding away. And it ties into that self-trust, because we need to be real and true to ourselves. And we also need to set those boundaries when things don't feel good for us. We know that within us, and we need to be able to stand up and say, okay, this doesn't feel good. Let's do something else. Let's do something about it, and have those brave conversations. And Rose is doing this, and I'm loving the progress that Rose has made.
She brings such warmth and kindness to whatever she does as well, doesn't she? She's awesome. But just touching on that thing you just said there about boundaries, and you know, again, Brene Brown has a lot of research on how compassion and boundaries work together, and how the most compassionate people are those who are practicing and living their boundaries.
Yeah, and that can be done very, very compassionately. A boundary doesn't have to be something that creates conflict. You can do that in the most compassionate way, extending the most generous interpretation of somebody else's behavior, and still go, okay, this is what I need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so something perhaps to start reflecting on are what are your boundaries? What are the things that you need in place in order to value yourself and your own self-worth, and allow others to treat you in the way in which you deserve?
Yeah. And you might simply write a list of, these are the things that are okay, and these are the things that are not okay. And that's a really good practice to start getting really clear on what your boundaries are.
Yes. Oh, that just reminds me actually of another way to approach that as well, in terms of what feels yummy and that you want to pull towards you, and what feels icky and that you want to push away.
That's nice.
For those who are, yeah, perhaps a little bit more kinesthetic. All right, should we listen to the next one?
Yeah.
This is Lizzie. Let's have a listen to what Lizzie has to say.
The me before I'd connected with you guys would hardly make eye contact, would not speak at all. I would be the wallpaper in the background. I'd be present, but I couldn't dare have an opinion or share it if I did have it. If I knew it, if I identified what I thought or felt, I wouldn't give it out freely to people that were kind of in my audience or group, because they might reject it. They might not approve of it. It might cause a bit of confrontation or a bit of unease if it's a differing opinion to someone. So it's just safer to be quiet and not speak. And I don't do that now. I can't, it doesn't sit well with me, because I am more okay with who I am. There is that higher level of acceptance in it. It's really difficult to pinpoint one main thing, Stacey. If I really had to push, it's going to sound way too simple for the significance that it had, but it was the learning, or just that shift in perspective and that change, that I am not my anxiety. Like, anxiety is something I experience. It's something that I feel. It's not my identity. It's not me. I'm not inherently wrong or broken or faulty when I'm anxious. I'm me, and I'm whole, and I just experience anxiety and anxiousness in specific moments. And that distance between it not being me and who I am allowed me to get comfortable with the uncomfortableness of it. I think that's pretty much the biggest part that allowed me to maneuver. It gave me that wiggle room. It was a describing word, I guess. That's what I said. Like, I was anxious. It was me. Like, I'm tall, I'm brown hair, I'm blue eyes, I'm anxious. And actually, no, that's not true. I can feel anxious, but it's not who I am. It's very empowering, because once you realize that you get to choose what you think and how you decide to think it, it's massive. It's definitely, like, it's a big part of my journey. Like, I don't know if I would be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't have had the coaching with you. Like, there's hope and there's a future, right? There's a future and there's hope for the future. And I am really nervous about it. I still feel anxious. I still have anxiety completely, quite a lot of the time. But I'm not in that place where I can't function because of it. It doesn't completely shut me down. It doesn't completely make me freeze. There's also a lot of compassion and understanding, but I'm also okay with the fact that I am quite quiet and I'm very empathetic, and I take that and I feel it, so I can get quite tired quite easily. And my self-care looks like that. I need to be able to retreat and have my quiet, calm space. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. Whereas I think before, it would have just added to the feeling like I was wrong or faulty, because it was going against the grain, if you like, of what I assumed. And what actually, I don't think I assumed as if I made it up wrongly. I do think there is a level of society, like, it is out there. There's those stereotypes. Because really, when you're little, your beliefs all come from outside, because you're kind of like a blank canvas, I guess. So why wouldn't I have learned what everybody else thought? And then it's just, I've never really challenged it. I've never really questioned it. It boxed me into that place of not being okay as I was. Like, I am really grateful for the difference the experience of Quiet Connections has made. I found a sense of belonging, a community. I found a different level of acceptance within myself and the compassion for me when I'm experiencing anxiety. I continue to get lots from the various workshops and podcasts since I'm an active member in the app after my coaching had finished. There's like an unsaid rule or a knowing, isn't there, when you're on that app, that other people are there, because whilst their content's very different to yours, because we're also individual with our experiences, the theme is the same. It could be anxiety that shows up like flight. It could be that I was very much freeze and being invisible, but the theme of anxiety runs through it. It's a fear and a worry, isn't it? It's a connectedness for people that are quiet. And it doesn't matter how the quiet shows up for them, right? It could be literally don't speak ever. It could be quiet as in don't ever share what we really think, but very vocal. But quiet can manifest very differently for people. And that space that you have created is a way to connect people that feel like that app might be relevant for them. So that tells me that on a level somewhere, I'm not on my own.
Right, so much in there. I think the first thing actually that I want to touch on, because I know this was a huge step for me as well, was that this identifying with anxiety as being a part of who I am. And, just like what Lizzie said there, she saw anxiety and that feeling of anxiety as a describing word for who she was. This is who I am, I'm anxious. And I think so many of us, go through life feeling that way, that because we experience anxiety and we feel anxious in certain situations, that we start to attach it to who we are as a person. And the moment that we can start to separate the two and to recognize that anxiety is an emotion, it's a feeling, it's a response to our surroundings or to what we're believing or thinking, then we can start to see the space between who we are and what we're experiencing. And just like Lizzie said, it's in that space that you can start to see that there are different choices and responses, and that is where change can happen. And I do believe that it's so empowering to be able to start seeing that. Well, I do want to mention that
An extra thing that Lizzie did share was that she had to experience that for herself in order to believe that it was true. So previously she had mentioned that she had read and heard lots of things that were kind of similar and along those lines, but it wasn't until she felt it that made like the biggest shift. So I think there is a level of integration and patience there with ourselves with this.
You have to go there to know that.
Yeah.
I can so relate to that as well. I mean, when I was doing my coach training, one of the biggest shocks was the way that I was talking to myself. And I realized how much I was holding myself back and keeping myself in this real kind of like stuck victimy space because of the way, just because of the language that I was using, really. And what I really loved about what Lizzie shared there was that she still experiences anxiety, and so do we. And that is normal.
Because it's an emotion.
Yeah, we are humans, therefore we are going to experience anxiety. This is how we're supposed to function. The problem for us is just when we get stuck in that anxiety and we don't, we're not able to move through it and process it.
That anxiety that we're experiencing is saying, protect, keep yourself safe. So, it's really understandable to, when you start seeing it from that perspective of like why you may be avoiding situations, even if you feel like you want to, there may be a level there of some sense of like, this may be unsafe for me in some way. And I think part of the discovery is to get to know what maybe some of those things are that are creating those barriers, and then you can start to work with them as opposed to trying to fight against them or avoid them altogether.
Yeah, sometimes we have to just rewire our brains and tell ourselves that some situations are safe when we've been believing that they're not safe throughout our lives. And, the reality is you logically know that these situations are safe, and yet you still feel the fear. So when we're stuck in this cycle of avoidance, we're never facing the fear, we're never sitting with it, sitting with the discomfort and moving through it. And that's what we really have to do.
Yeah.
But in a very gentle way.
Yeah. Which I think is the key thing that a lot of us don't recognize, or that we're not taught, is that actually there are really gentle ways of doing this and taking those really small steps and stretches. It's not about throwing yourself in the deep end like so many of us get told. Can reinforce that panic.
Yeah. And this is something that Lizzie touched on as well, this expectation that we do feel in society, and schools are a really good example of this. So we've spoken to some, teachers at colleges who have been like adamant that students need to go in and do presentations straight away because they will be expected to do this when they graduate, and they're not really willing to allow the students to slow down and take smaller comfort zone stretches and build up to doing a presentation to the entire class. They're determined to throw students in at the deep end. And some of them obviously get it. Some of them are much, much better. But, conversations that we've had, this has been the loudest voice in the room.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that to touch on. But as you were saying that was actually just reminding me of what Amanda was saying in terms of like the flower doesn't force itself to grow before it's ready.
Yeah.
And I think if we can keep that image in mind, we can we need space to be able to grow and flourish in ways that feel at the right pace for us.
Yeah.
And likewise, I think a lot of that is going to come down to actually changing the views and the culture that we live in that says that there is no space for that.
Yeah. Well, just think about how a seed grows. That all starts in the dark, doesn't it?
Oh, that's nice. And I think, again, like if we touch on a little bit there of what Lizzie was saying around finding that acceptance in embracing the quietness and learning to love the quietness, because again, I think so many of us received that message growing up that it wasn't okay to be quieter or to be sensitive or to be, more gentle in nature, shall we say, more observant and things like that. So learning to love those parts of us is is key, is really vital. And again, there's a lot of steps and compassion that we can take along the way to really start embracing those quieter qualities within us.
Yeah, for sure. And I know this comes up in other conversations too. It's something that a lot of the people that we work with are, they're struggling with in the first place, that they see quiet as something that's negative because this is what they've picked up from maybe family or society, from school. So, okay, let's dive into Esther's conversation now, because I know that Esther touches on this too.
I found human interactions really difficult, and I had a very intense fear of being judged, feeling unworthy, and also feeling a lot of shame. I very much thought that I was defected and that there was something wrong with me, and that I really was, what I thought of myself was who I was and what everybody else thought of me. I was very much still in the problem, and now I don't feel so much in the problem, if that makes sense. Had you asked me to do this, I don't know, however long ago, I probably would have said no, because I don't know whether victim's the right word, but I still very much felt hard done by. I'm very sorry for myself, whereas I'm coming out of that and actually starting to practice the stuff that, we've looked at before, and the ongoing stuff on the app and on the podcast and that, So even with the breathing exercises, Hayley, I still bobbed it off for ages and thought, no, that won't work, and now I've got the willingness to give it a try. Now I'm very open-minded to it, which is change. So if you're not helping yourself, you can't help others, can you? But it made me start to challenge my limiting beliefs and seeing them for what they really are, that my thoughts are not my reality. Basically, they aren't true, that they're very powerful, but they don't define who I am. So it's helped me to detach from them. To start with, I thought I was completely doomed because I'd felt trapped in this pattern of behaviour and thinking for many years. And I really thought that was my lot in life. But now just realising that actually I'm not what I call myself, or all these labels that I had said to me over the years about being shy, quiet, kind of being seen in a negative light, really, and that how much it's made me challenge it and to stop rejecting myself, which is something you said to me, and I'm learning to believe that I am enough. You were the first person to ever mention self-compassion to me, and I thought, I nearly was going to swear then, I won't. But I thought, what does that mean, self-compassion? It's not something that I'd ever considered before. It was foreign to me. And now I completely understand what that means. Because I tell you what, I've gained a lot from the podcasts. I've listened to all of them, and there was one I think I've listened to about 3 times, one of the earlier ones you did. And it made me realise that so much of this stems from childhood and that it's learnt behaviour. And I am not that person. I was really intrigued. I thought, wow, it was stuff that I'd never even realised before. So, yeah, grateful for that.
And Esther, what's your message for people going through something similar?
Well, that there's hope. There really is light at the end of the tunnel. And just because you're used to thinking and behaving a certain way, it doesn't mean that is your destiny, basically. And I would definitely recommend doing comfort zone stretches, because there's no joy in being stuck. And they say life begins at the end of it, and it's definitely true.
Wow, there's so much in that one.
I know, and echo so much as well of what other people said. I don't even know where to begin.
I think that it's her story, where she started, is just so relatable. And what I really want everyone to know is that if you are experiencing social anxiety, anxiety in social situations, even if you don't call it social anxiety, then underneath that, there's always this sense of, I'm not good enough. We haven't worked with anyone who hasn't uncovered this for themselves. And it's, this protective mechanism, this self-rejection, we're rejecting ourselves, avoiding situations before somebody else can reject us, because that's what we assume is going to happen. And it's really tough. It's really tough. But I think that, like Esther says, realizing that this behavior is learned, it's not who you really are, it's not who you are as a person, and realizing where it comes from, that really is the first step. It shows that you can change. And Esther did mention one of the podcast episodes. That episode was episode 2, which is about the first step from socially anxious to quietly confident, the missing puzzle piece. So if you haven't yet listened, I really encourage you to go and listen to that episode, because I feel like the content of that episode is really helpful to just unlock that belief that you can change.
Yeah, and just seeing it, like, for the first time. It might be the first time that, like Esther said, like, that you may have even considered that all of this that you're experiencing has been something that you learned. Like, I remember when I first learned that, I thought, what? Like, I wasn't born this way. And it just makes such a huge difference, doesn't it, to know that, like, if you've learned something, it doesn't define who you are. Because and if you've learned it, then you can unlearn it too, or you can learn something in place of it.
Yeah, so sometimes we just need to understand that, how it's come about in the first place. We need that little bit of knowledge to be able to go, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And Esther talks about that willingness to try, and she talks about moving from being very problem focused to being solution focused and looking at possibilities and thinking about what she can do. And I loved how honest she was there about, I just fobbed off the breathing exercises that you gave me. And she did. That's exactly what she did.
I started as well.
And that resistance that we feel in our journey is really normal. And maybe you want to share a little bit about that, Stacey.
Yeah, when I first really started, I suppose, on this growth journey and unpacking a lot of these beliefs that I held, and was really starting to dig into what needed to be healed within me, I experienced so much anxiety. And a lot of this started for me when I actually did my coaching training, when I was doing the NLP training. Because it was learning through practice. So you had to do the explorations and the discovery, and you had to go to those uncomfortable places yourself in order to learn how the exercises and the tools and stuff worked. So obviously that brought up a lot for me, and things that I hadn't considered before, things that I hadn't looked at. And when that started happening, I was just like, no. This is rubbish. This is all rubbish. Don't want to go there. Don't want to do this. It was just, this feeling of no, none of this is true. Like, all these techniques are rubbish. This can't be right. I just was really, really resistant to opening myself up to the possibility of change. And what's interesting about that, I feel, is that when I look back on that, what I can really see is that I was afraid. I was fearful that the moment I started to shift or change any of those beliefs, I was opening myself up to the possibility of being hurt, to the possibility of rejection, to the possibility of putting myself into situations that were not perceived to me as being safe. So of course you're going to experience some resistance, because there's going to be that part of you that still wants to keep you safe. And you can start to offer yourself some compassion to be like, okay, thank you for wanting to keep me safe, but I need to do this.
Yeah, there is another way. There's greater wisdom within you, and you can tap into that. I think it's like, we build up this model of the world, and imagine we've built this thing from Lego, and then we're doing this this learning and this growing, and all of a sudden our model of the world is crushed and it falls to pieces, and we have to start picking up the pieces and going, right, how does it really fit together, and how do we want it to fit together? We have to we have to realize that the way that we think, we've also been taught that in childhood. Whether we are seeing ourselves in this kind of victim space, or being very general in that, a lot of people will talk about everything's going wrong, and we'll focus on the negative things, and we actually lose sight of the positive stuff that's going on around us. So there's a lot that we can do to really gently shift the way that we think, and really have a more empowering mindset. And then I think what I really love, what I really want to end on with Esther's conversation, is her message about there's no joy in being stuck.
Yeah.
How powerful is that?
And so true. True.
Yeah. If you are on the edge of, starting this journey for yourself, or taking it up a level and going to the next step, just ask yourself, what would it be like if I was still here in 5 years' time and I didn't take that step? What would it be like if I did? How amazing would that be?
And all the possibilities that could come from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone that we've spoken to for this episode has been so surprised, so surprised about where they are right now. And that's just amazing to see. It's really beautiful to see how they have flourished, how they've blossomed, how they've grown.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's so wonderful, isn't it? So inspiring as well. And just to touch on that a little bit, actually, I think that is quite the amazing thing about this is that once you start taking those stretches and you start opening yourself up to that, it's the unexpected things that tend to create the most joy. The things that surprise you and that shock you and that make you think, wow, I didn't realize that I had that in me, or I was capable of that, or I had that ability, or that I would enjoy that. And when we start to open ourselves up to those experiences, is when I think you'll really find that sense of vitality and joy and, compassion and love for yourself.
Yeah, like Rose was saying in hers, she's realized she can do things that she never thought she could do. And she's started by gently stretching her comfort zone with us and joining our groups and being seen and practicing new things within that group setting. Yeah. Okay, we have one final story to listen to, and this is Julia.
I mean, the first time I came for like a coaching session, I was hitting a bit of that spot where I didn't really know what I was doing with my life at all. I couldn't figure out what would be the best way to spend it in the most fulfilling and valuable way. And this is where I realized, after like a lot of thinking and a lot of self-reflecting and a lot of like despair, I realized that, I needed help kind of understanding what my purpose was, because I hadn't identified my values. I had identified roughly who I was. So what do I do now, basically? And so this is when I got in touch with you, Stacey. But yeah, we had a few sessions where you asked me some like really good thought-provoking questions around like, okay, so your purpose, does it need to be something that is grand or something that needs to be very visible? Do you need to go into the public sphere to make a change, and all that kind of questions? Or can you do it in a quiet way? Or what does it mean to you to make a change? And all of these questions actually made me realize that I didn't need to do grand things to be able to hit my purpose. It was all about making the space around me the way I wanted, and then it had the knock-on effect on other people. It really did help me ask those like the whole thing around like, does your purpose need to be something absolutely grand, or can it? Because to me, like I could not conceive achieving purpose without having to be some sort of like public figure, or to go and meet people. And you help me consider it in a way that feels much more manageable and much less scary. So that was definitely something that helped me move forward and find some reward and purpose in my life, really. When we had that whole discussion about worth, and I told you, it's all linked to performance and achievements, and you told me like, if you saw somebody although you had no idea what they had achieved or anything, where you say that they're worthless. And I would never say that. Like, yeah, so what makes you worthy? Well, just being here. Like, yay. So that's also something you taught me. Before, I would be someone who was not self-aware at all of how I would feel. I would feel ashamed of my feelings. And also I would be somebody who would keep things in. And since I started my journey, I realized that all these emotions are here for a reason. And today I'm much more observant of those emotions. Before, I would try and hide all these, or what we call negative emotions. I would try and like conceal them, or not, or be ashamed of them, or try and not feel like, really feel not happy about them, and just like hide them away. But today, every time I feel uncomfortable, or I feel those feelings, I try to welcome them in a kinder way, because if they are here, there's a reason, and I want to observe this reason. If they are here, that means that something's going on within me that I should pay attention to. And this is what this journey has been all about. And that makes me feel strong, because all our lives, well, at least all my life, I've been kind of told, like, oh no, you should not feel this way. Oh, come on, smile. And I realized how much damage this does, because we're completely annihilating a side of ourselves and something that is profoundly human, and we just shove it away. Whereas we should definitely listen to it. The more I listen to my emotion, the kinder I am to myself, the more compassionate I am to myself, and the more self-aware I am as well. Trust that going through that journey is really hard. I think it's the hardest thing I've ever done ever in my life. But to trust that it really is for the better, that it's going to be a journey of self-discovery and observation of ourselves, and honesty with ourselves as well, to be honest around how we feel, why we feel this way, what makes us feel this way, and how we can change it, and to challenge ourselves. It's insanely difficult, but it's the most liberating thing I've ever experienced in my life. It's the thing that makes me feel hope, even though sometimes I just feel setback after setbacks, that I'm still the same person. There are moments where I feel like, oh, well, that's a good thing, because I've reacted in a way I would not have reacted 2 weeks ago. So change is difficult and slow, but it happens. Embark on this journey. The person you'll become will be an amazing human being you'll be so proud of, because it'll be you.
I love, that last little bit that she said. It's like, you will be so proud of the person that you become, because you will be you, not all the other stuff, not all the expectations or the things that we've spoke about earlier about molding ourselves to fit in and to be approved by others. Like, all of this that you start working on, to start peeling away these layers, is about you becoming you. Bring yourself back.
Yeah. And I think we don't give ourselves permission to do that enough. We feel like we need to show up and be perfect and be like this person that we expect everybody else wants to see from us. And we don't give ourselves that space to learn and grow as much as we could do. And when I was doing my MBIT training, I learned this phrase that I really love. And I like to see us not as human beings, but as human becomings.
Yeah, I love that.
It's lovely. It automatically puts you in that learning frame of mind, doesn't it? It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, just like Amanda said, it's that unfolding process, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just like constantly becoming, constantly evolving, constantly learning. We're never stuck. We may feel stuck at times, but there's this sense of like, we are always evolving and always becoming something more, something new.
And we are made of water. How can we be stuck?
We have movement just built within every aspect of our being. There's so much more in Julia's as well that I wanted to touch on, and I think that sense of attaching our sense of self-worth to our achievements or to what we do is something to really, I suppose, dig into and to start shifting our perspectives around. Because again, if we're, and likewise, like this is the lesson that the majority of us grow up learning, because if you think about it, when you're in school, everything's about your grades and you know what you do.
It's not about your efforts anymore, is it?
Yeah. And I think like from that space, it's very easy for us to fall into that place of comparison, of comparing what we've done or what we've achieved to other people, and then perceive ourselves as potentially less than them. It adds that extra pressure onto us to always be in this state of performing and perfectionism and being the best. I say in air quotes because what really is the best. And when we feel like we can't live up to all of this, you know, it's really no surprise that we may consider ourselves to be less than worthy, to be less than others, to be not good enough. Finish what is on the end of that sentence for you. What do you feel like you're not good enough for or at? So shifting our perspectives and our focus onto that, everything is about the process. It's about the learning. It's about the steps that we take, and that can shift so much for us and make things feel so much more easier, because all of a sudden we're focusing on the growing and the learning and the blossoming and all these other things that everybody else has already mentioned.
Yeah. And perfection does not create connection. It gets in the way of connection because we're not showing up as our true selves. And everything that Julia was talking about was about getting back to your own vulnerability. And we all have these vulnerabilities. And when we show up and we are allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, that's how we create connections. That's how we learn and grow. It involves getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Which is uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
Even the idea of that can feel uncomfortable. But I do love what she said there about like a lot of this journey, that she calls it, for her has been about learning about emotions and allowing all emotions to be present in her life, and actually using them as feedback. I think that's so valuable, to see our emotions as a sign that there's something there to look at, you know, whether or not that says that, oh, this feels good for me and I enjoy this, but also this doesn't feel good for me, and what is it about this that, you know, feels wrong or feels uncomfortable or that makes me feel unsafe in some way. Like every emotion there has some level of information and feedback for us, and again, when we can allow ourselves to be in that space of curiosity, to explore what that is, it will tell you so much about who you are and what you want.
Yeah. And Julia mentioned about having her emotions dismissed. And I think that happens to all of us. You know, we're living in a culture that we don't seem to have a lot of empathy for each other in the way that we can sit down and really hold space and listen to each other. That's a real skill that a lot of us don't have. We're not taught it. And when that happens, we start to feel like there's something wrong with having those emotions. And we try and hide those parts of us. And we're like, you know, I need to show up and be strong and hold things together. And we see a lot of people who are like that. And I was like that myself. And realizing that actually it's okay to have emotions and to show emotions. And when you show that emotion, when you show that you are not, you know, this superhuman person who can hold everything together, that really creates connection. That really opens the door to your heart, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're all really looking for, isn't it? Like, I don't know anyone who has said that it has felt good for them to share how they're feeling, and for someone to tell them, well, you know, it's not okay to feel that way, or you know, this is what you need to do to change that. Because sometimes actually giving advice or receiving advice is not the thing that actually we need. It's it's just having someone to sit there and listen to us and to say, I understand, and it's okay for you to feel that way. And I've been there too. I've felt similar things.
Yeah.
Just to let us know that actually those feelings are normal. They're so normal. Every emotion has its purpose and has its place. And yeah, we need to allow space for that in society.
Yeah. And the more that we do that with ourselves, the more that we can do that with other people, because no longer do we feel like we need to fix something for somebody else or dismiss their emotions because it's uncomfortable for you to be a part of.
Yeah, because really that is essentially what's happening, isn't it? Is that all those times that if you've ever felt like your emotions or what you're feeling or what you're experiencing has not been heard or has not been received in the way that you would have liked it to, then really the thing that's going on for, I'd say the majority of people, is that they are uncomfortable with holding space for the emotion that you're expressing.
It was never about you. It was always about them.
Exactly.
And what I really loved, so there's quite a nice theme throughout these stories, in that, just like Julia spoke about the knock-on effect with others, there is a ripple effect, and we are seeing it with these 5 wonderful people as they go out into the world, and they really show up. They show up as who they are, and some of them are volunteering, and some of them are creating businesses and having jobs that are actually out there helping people now. And it's just so beautiful to see that ripple effect, and that's why we do what we do, because that little bit of support can really impact somebody else, and then they go out and they impact somebody else, and on it goes. And that is how we change the world.
And how powerful is that? Like, so powerful. I was actually after the recording with Julia, we had a little bit of a chat about Frozen 2 and how the moment that Elsa stepped into her place of belonging and being who she really was, she created that space then for Anna to step into her rightful place as well. So, none of us ever operate in a place of separateness. Every action that you create has that impact on somebody else.
Yeah.
So, from that perspective, like, we're all connected. There's no way to see that we're not all connected, and that when you change yourself, you help create change for someone else. They help create change for someone else. And yeah, like you said, Hayley, at some point it really does change society and everything within it. It's huge. So huge.
And that's such a beautiful vision, isn't it? So what we want to leave you with is hope. In every single one of these stories, you have been offered hope. Hope that you can change, hope that you can grow, hope that the world around us can catch up and change too.
I really like that, Hayley, that the world needs to catch up and change with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we have all spent so much time trying to change ourselves to fit into the world, and maybe it's time that actually the world needs to change.
Yeah, it is time to reframe quiet.
Absolutely.
So I'd just like to say a great big thank you to you for listening to our podcasts, and for sharing and rating our podcast and really helping us to get the message out there. And I encourage you, between now and season 2, to please continue to do this and just share it with people who you feel are going to benefit from hearing these stories from all of our guests. And then we'll be back in July to start a new series of podcasts. If you have any ideas of things that you want us to cover, please do drop us an email and let us know. You can contact us at hello@quietconnections.co.uk. We would love for you to get involved.
And please do come join us on the Quiet Connections app, and to join our community and connect with other like-minded people who are experiencing similar things to what you are now, and who are going through this process and will go through this process with you.
Yes. Yeah, come and join us. And with that, please do stay connected.
Thanks for listening. You can find the show notes from this episode at quietconnections.co.uk. Before you go, please subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date with all future episodes.
With gratitude for the support of the National Lottery Community Fund.